Thank you. Well, thank you very much for inviting us. Yes, my name's Jo Howe, and in October I started a PhD over at the University of Nottingham, so I effectively defected and left Birmingham, and have left Emily to clear up the bits of the project that I didn't manage to sort out. So consequently, she'll be doing the second half because I have absolutely no idea what happened with the results for the second half of the project. I will be talking about CogWatch, and Emily will be doing Stepping to the Beats. So, we all love a good cup of tea. In England, we are a nation of tea drinkers. And my involvement with CogWatch centred around an ability to make a cup of tea. And I found this quite fascinating, and it's amazing what you can find in the Daily Mail on a regular basis about the right way to make a tea. Apparently it's milk first. So, in the time it takes Emily and I to do this presentation, 6 people in the UK will have had a stroke. Stroke is one of the leading causes of disability in the world. 50% of the people who are discharged from hospital have a significant disability. 30% of those require significant assistance with activities of daily living. And by that I mean things like getting dressed, brushing their hair, brushing the teeth, and making a cup of tea. So, this is where CogWatch was in, the concept of CogWatch originated, was to try and see if we could use digital technology to facilitate those activities of daily living. Was it possible to invent something from scratch that would allow stroke survivors to regain independence and to perhaps have a more fulfilling life at home? And this is the essential concept of where CogWatch comes from. The use of technology in cognitive rehabilitation, and by that I mean, in the terms of this presentation, by cognitive and cognition I mean the ability to think and plan and coordinate your actions, is very poorly researched and hardly understood at all. You are likely to find technology used in physical rehabilitation following stroke with robots, maybe to assist functioning with the arm or with the leg. But in cognition, I have found very little, so if you know of any, then you can let me know, because I would really like to talk to them. So, we focus on patients following stroke who have a condition called either apraxia or action disorganization syndrome. And essentially what that means is these patients struggle to sequence actions together in the correct order. So if we go back to our example of a cup of tea, they struggle to put the actions in the right order. So they may put the water into the cup instead of into the kettle. And I've got a little video here just to show you. And this is one of our patients that took part in the trial. He was one of our more severely impaired patients, but you can see here, we've asked him to make a cup of tea. He essentially knows what he needs to do, but because of the way in which his brain has been damaged following the stroke, he cannot put those sequences in the correct order. It takes him 6 minutes, and he does not make a cup of tea. He actually goes on to make a cup of coffee. He makes a cold cup of coffee at that. It takes him a very, very long time. Let's just go back. One of the other things that these patients will struggle to do is to copy gestures. So simple things like show me the hitchhiking gesture, wave goodbye. These patients have an inability to do that because of the damage that they have experienced. The other thing they won't be able to do as well is mime you, copy you. So if you ask them to do something like this, this would be an impossible task for them, and they might end up doing something very similar, but they still wouldn't be able to achieve the objective. So, what is CogWatch? I have 2 young children, and they're massively into Harry Potter, so I just tell them that I go to the school of Hogwarts and that CogWatch is just magic, which appeals to them, and it does work quite well to facilitate it. But actually, what they tell me, CogWatch is an intelligent, automatic, computer-based system that has been designed from scratch through our university partners. And it has a task model inside of it. So the task model, to me, and I'm not an engineer or a programmer, but the task model, the way that it's been sold to me, is it gives you a set of parameters within which you can operate. So we all make tea differently. Some people put milk in first, some people put milk in last. Some people put sugar in first, some people put it in last. You might even wait till the very end to put the tea bag in. What I'm trying to say is there are many, many ways to make a cup of tea. The CogWatch task model will accommodate any way you can make a cup of tea, as long as you can make it at the end. The idea of CogWatch was never to replace a therapist. It was to help the therapist. Now, patients following stroke are supposed to have 45 minutes of therapy every single day for every discipline that they require. If they have multiple difficulties on the ward or at home, they're supposed to have 45 minutes of occupational therapy, 45 minutes of physiotherapy, and 45 minutes of speech and language therapy if they require it. This system was designed to help the occupational therapist with tea making. Tea making is a task that the occupational therapists use routinely on the hospital wards. And if a patient is able to make a cup of tea, it displays a certain level of functionality, and they are more likely to be able to be discharged home, and they are trained to make tea in hospital kitchens. So CogWatch has been devised to help with that facility. It uses intelligent tools and objects, and I'll show you a little graph of that, a little picture of that to help with it. Now, what I very quickly need to mention is this is a list of all our partners. We were a European-funded project. 3 universities, Birmingham, Madrid, and Munich in Germany. The Stroke Association were our user group, but we also partnered with industry. RGB and BMT were our engineering groups, and Headwise was our neuropsychological service that we used as well. So we were a very, very large group. It's a very, very large project. This is a graphic of the CogWatch system on this side here, the left-hand side. Essentially, the patient is seated in front of a computer, and all of the information that they need is given via this computer. These elements here are our intelligent objects. Each thing that we need, so the milk jug, the mug and the kettle, are fitted with CogWatch intelligent coasters, and they are tracked in the environment. So the CogWatch itself, the system, knows where those objects are in space and time at any point in time. This, you've probably seen it all before, it's a Kinect, so it's used in gaming. This tracks the person. So the computer itself then joins the two together. It knows what the person is doing, what they are likely to go and do next, and what they have done, as well as where these objects are in the local environment. Now, when we started this project several years ago, we had big desktop towers and the big screens. We've very recently managed to find some funding to move towards Microsoft Surface tablets, which are a little bit more portable. So, a revolution of the times, I think. So, CogWatch at work. Let me just show you. We have a promotional video here of one of the patients that took part in our trial. And this is essentially, they say, I want to make that kind of sugar, that kind of drink, and they start. They just go through the process as normal. Each time they complete a task, a little picture appears in the top, so they know what they've already done. If they get to a point and they think, I don't know what to do next, they just press help, which I think she will do any second now. There. And a prompt appears. The prompt could be video. The prompt can also be text, and it can also be audio. It can be customized completely to the needs of the individual person. Now, in the background there, you just saw Emily. She was playing the role of the clinician in this video. And in the clinician's role, they can observe. Now, for the purposes of the trial that we did at university, the clinician was in the room with the patient. However, this is a prototype, and the idea is that eventually this will be able to be remote monitoring. So it could be in a next room, or in the future it could be in a completely remote location. You can track everything, you can see everything the patient's doing, and you can offer feedback as well. And we just go back to the slides. So, my purpose, the reason I joined the study, was to determine whether CogWatch can induce lasting behavioural change in stroke patients with apraxia and accent disorganisation syndrome, and I've overrun. So I'll very quickly run through all of this. The purpose is to evaluate the CogWatch approach. We had them in for 5 weeks of weekly training sessions and phase 1 and phase 2 training. Basically, what this means is that every good research study needs a control, and our control was stepping to the beat, which Emily will talk about in a moment. The patients we did a crossover design, so every patient did both types of study. Everybody did 5 sessions of CogWatch, everybody did 5 sessions of stepping to the beat. What we changed was the order. Some people started with CogWatch, some people started with stepping to the beat. So essentially what we needed to know is, did it work? Have we got the post video? And I'll just show you this because it's literally seconds. This is the same patient you saw earlier, following 5 one-week sessions of training. And what he does, he actually goes on to make a cup of tea. He takes the water, pours it straight into the kettle. The difference was phenomenal. He went from making no cups of tea in his first assessment to making 8 cups of tea in his last assessment. And it was absolutely fantastic for us to watch. Now, because of his level of impairment and because of the severity of it, his wife wouldn't allow him in the kitchen at home. She didn't think he was safe. So we know the only treatment he had was with us once a week for about half an hour to 45 minutes, and that was it. So did it work? We have, the answer is yes, it did work. We had a reduction in task time. So that's an overall time. We measured how long it takes them to make a cup of tea. If it takes you 6 to 10 minutes to make a cup of tea, it's going to be cold by the time you drink it. And we did find that they did reduce their time. And the reason they reduced their time is because they did actually overall reduce their errors. They made fewer errors, which meant they were more successful at tea. And the red there, that's the post-CogWatch training. Group 1 is CogWatch, who started out doing CogWatch first. Group 2 is the team that started out doing Stepping to the Beat first, so they had their assessments at different time points. So my overall conclusion about CogWatch is that it works. Future for CogWatch. More money is required, more funding to be able to take it through to the next level. There are 3 levels of funding that Birmingham are currently trying to secure. One is the basic level of funding, level 1, and that is just to include more tasks, more activities of daily living within the system itself, drinks, toothbrushing, other tasks that are more applicable. And then the other one is to make it more adaptable for home use, to try it out. We've tried it in hospitals for a few days, and we've had it in the lab at university, but we haven't actually been able to take it successfully into a home. So that would be just improving the technology to be able to make it work in your kitchen at home. As you can see, we had a very prescribed layout. It would be improving the technology so that we can take it into any kitchen. And then the third one, which is the one that we really, really want to do, is to make it speech recognizable. So following stroke, sometimes people's speech can be quite often slurred. We have people at the university who believe and who know they can make a speech recognition system that will respond to post-stroke speech. So then the patient will not have to, because if they've got hemiparesis and they've got paralysis in this arm and it doesn't move properly, they find it very difficult to press the screen. So if we can make that system work, then it could prove really, really invaluable. And I'll move over to Emily, and I've left the time, sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about research, but it's more the physical rather than cognitive side. So, yeah, stroke is one of the largest causes of complex disability in the UK, and asymmetry in walk is very, very common. So you might have seen people after stroke who limp. They put a lot of pressure on their one foot, so the foot that's better, and then kind of drag the other foot. So physiotherapy is kind of centred around helping them walk better. If their balance is improved, then their speed also improves. So yeah, physiotherapy is one of the biggest priorities in stroke rehabilitation, and 43% of patients reported wanting more rehabilitation physically after their discharge. So it's really important to rehabilitate early on, so whilst it's in hospital, but also it's important for continuous rehabilitation once they've left home. So the brain is very plastic, so it's able to repair itself. If part of the brain is damaged, for example, you're unable to walk in a symmetrical way, if you can train and rehabilitate yourself through repetitive training, this can result in behavioural change. So again, this is what physiotherapists aim at rehabilitation at. And there's a lot of research to suggest that making this movement very regular will help this result in massive behavioural change. So for example, if you're walking to a metronome cue and you're making this very regular, this helps to improve rehabilitation, helps to improve walking. But a metronome can be quite boring, so the university conducted a study, which was a home-based study, which got patients to walk to the beat of music. So they put a metronome cue over some music tracks and then got the patients to walk in time with the music. So this study was mainly to test how feasible it was to conduct rehabilitation in a home environment, so to allow this continuous rehabilitation after discharge, and also to see whether it actually works or not, whether actually walking to the beat of music helps improve. So there was 15 volunteers that were about 6 to 7 years post-stroke who were just in the community, and they were walking to the beat of music for 15 minutes a day, 5 times a week for 6 weeks. So quite intensive training, so this kind of intense repetition of walking. And then this walking speed would increase by 5% every week, so we're kind of really pushing the patients to walk faster. And we measured their walking speed. We also put sensors on their knees, ankles, on their chests to measure their walking ability and walking movements. And also time from go, so this is where they're sitting down, and we time how long it takes them to stand up, walk for about 6 metres, walk back and sit down again. So we really wanted to know, did this result in behavioural change? And yes it did. So the patients actually got faster, their speed increased after the 6 weeks of training, and also their time from go time decreased. So they found they were a lot quicker at standing up, walking and sitting down again. And this was also maintained at 3 weeks, so kind of a bit of evidence to suggest this would be more long term if it was continued. Not only this, the stroke patients also showed a lot of enthusiasm for this kind of rehabilitation. They found it quite fun, they were very self-motivated, which is obviously very important if you're conducting rehabilitation at home. They need to be motivated to do it themselves. And about half of the patients actually asked for the music tracks to keep after the study finished, so they could just do it themselves off their own accord. So that's a really positive thing. So overall, this study showed that it's a feasible thing to do, it's very cheap, and allows continuous rehab outside of hospital. So we wanted to test this at Birmingham further. So this is going back to the study Joe mentioned earlier. So cog watch was one of the training phases, and then stepping was the other one. So patients in this study were actually recruited due to having cognitive deficits, and a lot of the research out there in the literature often excludes patients based on cognitive deficits. So this is a really good way of kind of looking at that particular population who have cognitive deficits to see how they respond to this kind of rehab. So the methods, so they came in once a week for about 60 minutes to do some stepping for 5 weeks, and they would do a 5-minute warm-up, 3 10-minute slots of stepping, and then a 5-minute cool-down to do different to the music. So their baseline was just their normal walking speed that they felt comfortable with, and then we increased it by 5, 10, 15% within between sessions. And there was also tempo and phase shifts in the music, so the beat would just change how regular it was, so they had to speed up and slow down. And we assessed them at 4 different time points using a gait right map, so this is able to detect really subtle improvements in gait. Has lots of sensors in the map which we can use to analyse the results. So what did we find? So I'm just going to glance over a couple of results that we found. So stance time, so this is the length of time the foot is actually on the floor. So if this is reduced, then the person is walking faster. So we actually found that it did reduce after training, so the first arrow, and then it also actually improved again at follow-up, and this is kind of maintained. So again, this shows continuous improvement and maintained behaviour change after the study. And also speed, so they got faster after training, and again this improved at follow-up, so it's just this continuous improvement, which is obviously really positive. So also we had self-reported data, so in addition to the raw scores, patients also reported improvements themselves. So although we didn't directly test this, a lot of the patients made comments that they were more confident, they felt more independent, that they were going out more, so one patient was asked if they could be dropped to the shops on the way home after testing, and then they would walk home with their shopping, which is something they wouldn't have done before. And also just even socially going out with the family more, walking with friends. So this is really good and obviously shows that this stepping to the beat does actually result in behavioural change. So just to conclude, we've talked between us about 2 different types of behavioural change in relation to stroke. So Joe spoke about cognitive and I spoke about the more physical side. And also how this is related to technology, so we used assistive technology, cog watch, and then also the gait right map that we used when assessing whether stroke patients could improve, but also the music aspect which patients use during training.